So really quickly, let's just recap here. How do terms implied in fact, custom, or law overlap with each other? Basically, it's important to remember that all three can be argued at the same time. Have a look at Byrne and Australian Airlines. Each of the tests for custom, then fact, then law are applied in term. And we need to be aware that you only need to be able to apply a term under one of those heads for the term to be implied and become part of the contract. But they're not mutually exclusive arguments. So you can argue each, and the tests are similar, overlapping, but slightly different. So let me just actually step out the test for you. Oh, no animation here. But basically, in order for a term to be implied at law, under common law, so here, when I'm talking about common law, I am bundling together terms implied at law, terms implied by fact, and in terms implied by custom. Basically, the term needs to be reasonable and equitable. It needs to be necessary to give business efficacy to the contract so that no term will be implied if the contract is ineffective without it. It must be so obvious that it goes without saying. It must be capable of clear expression, and it mustn't contradict any express term of the contract. In other words, in all of these cases, it is possible for the contract itself to state or to override the term that would otherwise be implied by law. So the conditions can overlap in relation to each of the various heads, custom, term, and law and fact. If the agreement appears wholly in writing, then the test is going to be applied strictly, and each of these conditions needs to be demonstrated. However, if the agreement is partly verbal, partly written, then it is likely that the test will be truncated and applied in a less strict way. And lastly, it's really important to remember that if an agreement isn't complete on its face, then the test is whether the particular term is necessary for the reasonable or effective operation of the contract in the circumstances of that case. So the necessity of the term is more important, the efficacy of it is more important than the reasonableness or the equity of the outcome. Hope that overview summary helps you. In the next video, I'm going to move on and talk about terms implied by statute, and we're going to use the Australian consumer law as our model for that.